My name is Minnie Ornelas, and I'm 31. On the morning everything shifted, my coffee went cold before I ever took a sip. It was 10:52 a.m. on a weekday, too precise to be a coincidence, the kind of time that only shows up when someone plans what they're going to ask you. My phone lit up with Dad. He never called while I was at work unless something was wrong, or, more accurately, unless something needed to be paid for. I let it ring twice. It felt like the pause before a verdict. I answered. Hey, Dad. He didn't waste a breath. Minnie, honey, it's urgent. Brandon's tuition. He's overdue. They're about to drop him. This is the last semester. He is so close. In the background, I could hear Mom's voice, quick and breathy, like a kettle about to boil. This could ruin everything. Then Dad said it. The number. We need $11,500. Not around 11, not 10. 11.5. A surgeon's cut. Exact enough to sound reasonable, practiced enough to feel rehearsed. I stared at the corner of my desk, where the laminate peeled like a hangnail no one had bothered to fix. Didn't he have scholarships? What about financial aid? I thought, deadlines, Dad cut in, tightening. He messed up a few this semester, but he promised, Minnie, he promised this will set him up for success. The line he always used, like hope could be itemized. I could picture Brandon saying it too, hands spread, eyes wide with that fake casual sincerity that doesn't ask so much as assume, overpromise, underdeliver, then tuck it under the future. Across my desk, my boyfriend Ethan leaned in the doorway, picking up on the cadence before he could hear the words. Ethan has a calm that can either comfort or caution. Today, it was the latter. His brow lifted as if to say, "Don't do this again." I tilted the phone so he couldn't see my face. "Please," Dad said. There was a thud like a cabinet door closing. "Just this once, Minnie." That phrase had so many rings on it, I could hear the echo. Just this once for the car. Just this once for the summer program. Just this once for the laptop that would last him years. Every once had a receipt attached with my name on it. "Okay," I said, before my courage could form into a no. I said it because that's what I'd been trained to do. Be dependable, be generous, hold the family together with direct deposits and silence. I'll wire it this afternoon. Dad exhaled with relief that made me feel like an oxygen tank. "Thank you. You won't regret this. Your brother, this will change everything." I regretted it the second I hung up. Ethan waited. "You sent it, didn't you?" "I will," I said. His mouth flattened. He didn't scold, not out loud. He just let the quiet sit between us like a heavy box I insisted on lifting alone. "You know I love your heart," he said softly, "but I hate how they treat it like an ATM." "I know," I said, and I did know. But knowing and obeying are two different muscles. Mine were strong in the wrong places. At 3:07 p.m., I scheduled the transfer. $11,500. The screen asked, "Are you sure?" I tapped confirm in the same numb way I've deleted photos I was supposed to cherish. By 3:09, the money was gone. No thank you message, no confirmation, nothing. The absence was familiar. That night, I meal prepped like I was auditioning for a life that didn't wobble. Chopped peppers into even squares, roasted chicken breasts, labeled containers Monday through Friday with a Sharpie that squeaked like it was pleading. The oven timer chimed. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my cousin Jenna, a single screenshot. Brandon, at a casino, wearing a shiny button-down he couldn't afford, grinning with his arm around two strangers as if he'd won something more than my patience. A champagne bottle tilted toward the camera like a dare. The caption wasn't his. It came from his friend Troy, the one who films everything because consequences don't live in his world. Free money hits different. For a moment, my chest gave up being a chest and became a locked door. Not because of the money, though 11.5 isn't pocket change, but because of the choreography. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned. Wait for the wire, book the suite, pop the bottle, post the proof. In the distance of my head, I could hear Mom tell a neighbor, "Minnie is so helpful." I could see Dad at the stove stirring his lemon tree story into everything. I could see Brandon's lazy smile, the way it climbed a face that had never had to sweat for rent. Ethan read my expression before he saw the screen. What happened? I handed him the phone. The silence that followed was not empty. It was complete. "Minnie," he said finally, careful, "you don't owe them your peace just because you share a last name." "I know," I whispered. I put the phone down. I picked it back up. I zoomed in on the champagne like I was inspecting a tumor. My meal prep timer went off again. I didn't move. Something old inside me cracked, the part that made excuses with a soft voice. I replayed Dad's call in my head, each word rubbing against the next until it produced heat. I replayed years of calls I could recite by heart. He's so close. Just this once. You know we'll pay you back. I replayed every transfer. I remembered every request disguised as an emergency, every emergency that turned out to be a convenience, every convenience that became a habit. A long string of we need tied to a single blood knot, me. I didn't text Jenna back. I didn't call my parents. I didn't answer when Brandon's name lit my screen 30 minutes later. I put my phone face down and listened to the sweat bead on the oven door. Then I opened my laptop and unlocked a folder I'd always avoided, receipts. The scroll felt like archaeology, a $2,000 textbooks and dorm fees transfer from a year ago that Mom swore she'd track and never mentioned again. The $1,800 summer seminar Brandon couldn't miss. The $650 for the used laptop that was clearly new. The week-long networking conference in Miami that was a beach trip with name tags. I started a spreadsheet. Date, amount, reason. Who asked? What was promised? What happened? I added a column I'd never dared to add. How I felt. I typed words I didn't want to see in writing. Guilty, obligated, small, useful, invisible, angry. Ethan sat across from me, elbows on knees, watching like someone perched at the edge of a lake he knows can drown you. What are you doing? Stopping, I said. It surprised me how steady it sounded. I'm stopping the story they tell about me. He glanced at the screenshot still open on my phone. How? I don't know yet, I said, but I know this. They taught me to keep records when it helped them. I'm going to keep records that help me. It wasn't rage. I've known rage. This was colder, a clarity that drew thin lines between things. My family had never planned for Brandon to stand on his own. Why would he? He had me, the emergency fund, the invisible scaffold. He was the investment. I was the hands that watered it. And I finally understood. This wasn't generosity. This was control. At 11:13 p.m., Mom's name blinked across my phone. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was bright with control and cracked with panic, the signature blend. Hi, sweetheart. Just checking in. We love you. You're such a blessing. She paused, as if searching for the part where she segued into duty. Brandon is very grateful. I deleted the message before it could finish lying. When I finally crawled into bed, the ceiling wasn't a ceiling, it was a ledger. Names and numbers stacked and shimmered until sleep broke them apart. I woke before my alarm, reached for the cold coffee, took a sip, and grimaced. It wasn't the taste, it was the recognition. This was my part in the family, to go cold while everyone else stayed warm. I dressed for work in black slacks and a blouse that meant business to people who didn't know me. In the mirror, the woman looking back had my mother's jawline and my father's eyes, but the set of her mouth was new. On the way out, Ethan touched my wrist. Be careful, he said. I will, I promised, though I didn't yet know what danger looked like when it wore a last name. At lunch, Jenna texted again. You okay? Then a second message. You didn't hear this from me, but he's telling everyone you're so supportive. She added a rolling eyes emoji that felt too light for the gravity. I typed and erased 3 replies. I sent none. I didn't say a word to anyone for 3 days. I answered emails. I led a meeting. I laughed at a joke I didn't hear. Inside, I was building something with steel instead of hope. The next quiet moment at my desk, I opened notes and typed a single sentence. I'm not their daughter in this version. I'm the auditor. The words steadied me, because what I was about to do would look like betrayal to people who had taught me betrayal in installments. But it wasn't revenge. It was balance. That night, I tucked my hair behind my ear and pulled a small, dusty box from the back of my closet, the sort of box people save for keepsakes they don't want to admit they're keeping. On top sat a photograph of me and Brandon at a county fair, both of us 14 and smug in the summer sun. He'd won a plastic ring on a rigged game and slipped it onto my finger like a joke. In the background, the sky was carnival blue, so blue it looked embarrassed to be seen with us. I slid the photo back, I closed the lid, On Saturday, I'd go to my parents' house, smiling. I'd bring groceries like nothing was wrong. I'd offer to help. And if anyone asked me then what I was doing, I would have told them the truth. Correcting the math. By Saturday morning, my plan wasn't written anywhere, but it lived under my skin like static. I packed groceries in reusable bags, bread, apples, detergent, props for normalcy. Ethan leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You sure you want to do this? Yes. He exhaled, like he already knew it didn't matter. Then don't come back smaller. The drive to my parents' house was muscle memory. Same cracked sidewalk, same porch with the lemon tree Dad bragged about like it was a third child. The front door opened before I knocked. Minnie, Mom beamed, lips painted too red, voice sugar thick. You didn't have to bring groceries, sweetheart. I wanted to, I said. Inside, the air smelled like nostalgia and bleach. I set the bags on the counter, let her talk about the neighbors, the sale at the farmer's market, the usual chatter that pretends everything's fine. Dad watered the lemon tree outside, humming off key. Brandon was visiting friends, apparently. Perfect. While Mom busied herself sorting apples, I excused myself to grab paper towels from the closet. My pulse thudded in my ears. The bedroom door was half open. I slipped in. The jewelry box sat exactly where she'd said months ago. Bottom shelf, closet floor, small enough to fit in one hand. Vintage maroon velvet, brass latch. It looked ordinary, which made the lie even prettier. I knelt, no lock, no alarm, no second thought. When the lid lifted, the air inside smelled faintly of perfume and dust. There they were, the set my grandmother had worn in her wedding portrait, necklace, bracelet, earrings, all inlaid with milky opals. $20,000 of family legacy. I didn't take everything. That would have been a robbery. I took 3 pieces, the bracelet and 2 earrings. Enough to spark suspicion, not certainty. I slid them into the pocket of a cardigan I'd brought to donate. My hands didn't even shake. In the hallway, I heard Mom humming. Normal. Good. I replaced the lid, closed the closet, and carried the paper towels out as if nothing had happened. Want some coffee? She asked. Sure, I said. The cup she handed me was sweet and overfilled, just like her apologies always were. She talked about how proud she was of Brandon's near graduation, how he was finding himself. I smiled, nodded, memorized every word. When I left, Dad was still fussing with the lemon tree. Take some lemons when you go, he said. I will. I didn't. That night, I placed the jewelry on my dresser beneath a small desk lamp. The light fractured across the stones, scattering pale colors onto the wall. I thought about how many times I'd sent money and how each transfer had been invisible. Now, finally, I was holding something they'd noticed missing. Ethan found me staring at it. That's not yours, he said quietly. It was never theirs either, I replied. It was supposed to stay in the family. I'm family too. He rubbed his temples. You think this will fix anything? No, I said, but it'll make them stop thinking I'm afraid to balance the books. He didn't answer, just walked away, the silence heavy with the kind of worry love doesn't know how to phrase. 3 days later, the first text came. Mom. Hey, honey, quick question. Did I ever lend Grandma's bracelet to Aunt Lori? Can't find it. I ignored it. 5 hours later. Mom. We're doing a deep clean. Maybe it got moved at Christmas. Just let me know if you remember seeing it. The next morning, a voicemail, her voice thinner now. Hi, sweetheart, don't worry, nothing's wrong. Just can't find a few pieces from the jewelry box. I'm sure it's somewhere. Call when you can. I waited until noon. Then I replied, I haven't been in your room in years. No emoji, no reassurance. Silence. I could picture it. Mom pacing, Dad defensive, Brandon pretending to help while secretly checking his own stuff. Everyone suspicious of everyone. That was the beauty of it. They'd implode without me ever raising my voice. At lunch, Ethan texted, You started something you can't undo. Maybe, but undoing was never the goal. That evening, I took the bracelet and earrings to an old coworker, Tommy, who knew a dealer in vintage estate pieces. I just need an appraisal, I said. He looked them over under a loupe. You know what you have here? I shook my head. These are good, he said. Real opals, probably late 1930s. Altogether, around 27 grand, maybe more. The number hit like clean oxygen. I thanked him, tucked the pieces back into the cloth pouch, and walked out lighter, not because I had money, but because I finally understood the scale of the lie. They had begged me for $11,500, while hoarding a legacy worth twice that, one they'd already decided belonged to him. 5 days after my message, Mom tried again. Mom, we're really worried, honey. Dad's talking about installing cameras. It's crazy. Just want you to know we love you. Translation, we're scared. I left it unread. That night, my phone lit up with Brandon's name. I almost didn't answer. Then I did, curiosity winning. Hey, sis, he started, voice too smooth. Weird thing. Mom's flipping out over some missing jewelry. Dad's losing it. I told him you'd never, just wanted to check if you'd seen anything. His tone wobbled between casual and calculated, like he was auditioning for innocence. You think someone stole from you? I asked evenly. Not me, he said quickly. But yeah, maybe. People these days, you can't trust anyone. I let the silence stretch. He filled it, like he always did. Crazy timing, though, he added, a hint of a laugh. Right after that whole tuition thing, makes you wonder. That's when it clicked. He wasn't defending me. He was measuring me. If I hesitated, he'd hear guilt. If I overreacted, he'd hear confirmation. He was fishing. Good luck finding your thief, I said, then hung up. After the call, I sat on the couch, the city hum outside my window. Ethan came in quietly, set a cup of tea on the table, and said, You're enjoying this. I didn't deny it. I'm enjoying not being scared of them. He hesitated. Just don't lose the part of you that still cares about what's right. I looked at the reflection of the bracelet's stones in the glass of the window, ghost colors against the night. Maybe what's right was never what they said it was. For the first time in years, I slept through the night without checking my phone. When I woke, there was a single new text from Mom. Mom, do you think the cleaning lady could have taken it? I hate to accuse her, but the paranoia had officially taken root. I smiled, not out of cruelty, but relief, because the cracks were finally visible, and I hadn't had to lift a hammer. Mom's next message arrived 2 days later, half frantic, half performative. Mom, just so weird, Minnie, we can't find anything. Dad says maybe it's Brandon's friends. We're sick about it. You know how sentimental that jewelry was. I could almost hear her voice cracking just enough to sound human, but the act didn't work on me anymore. I didn't reply. I let the silence play its part. By the following morning, the situation had grown legs. Cousin Jenna texted, Your mom's going nuts. Dad's yelling. Brandon says someone must have broken in. Guess who they don't trust anymore? I stared at her message until the screen dimmed. So they were starting to suspect me. Good. Let them. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and set the jewelry on my desk again. The light hit the opals like trapped lightning. For the first time in my life, I was holding something they believed was safe from me. Ethan came home from work, loosened his tie, saw the bracelet glinting. You still have it out? I had it appraised, I said. Worth about $27,000. He froze. You're joking. I'm not. They begged me for $11,500 while sitting on this. I tapped the box. Tell me again who's stealing from who. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. I get that they used you. I do. But Minnie, this is balance, I finished for him. He shook his head slowly. You think if you can control the pain, it'll stop hurting. But you're just feeding it. I turned to him, calm. They trained me to feed them. I'm just changing who gets fed. He didn't respond. Just walked into the bedroom and shut the door softly, the sound somehow louder than shouting. By Thursday, things inside the Ornelas house were unraveling. Mom called again, voice trembling through the voicemail. We're going crazy here, sweetheart. Your father's accusing Brandon of pawning things. Brandon's furious. I don't know what's happening. I know you'd never take anything, right? That pause at the end, right, was the first honest question she'd asked me in years. I didn't answer. Instead, I forwarded the voicemail to my personal archive folder. Evidence. In case I ever needed proof that the chaos wasn't mine, it was inherited. 3 days later, Brandon called. I was expecting it. Hey, he said, sounding tired but trying to act casual. Look, about everything with Mom and Dad, I just want to say, sorry if they made you feel weird. It's been tense here. Has it? I asked. Yeah, they're losing it over that jewelry. Dad's threatening cameras. Mom's convinced the maid took it. It's a whole circus. He laughed, but there was a nervous edge beneath it. Maybe you should help them look, I said evenly. He chuckled again, dry this time. You think someone actually stole it? Don't you? Maybe. He paused. Crazy timing, though, huh? Right after everything with the tuition? Makes you wonder who'd even, need that kind of money. There it was, the implication. Are you asking me something, Brandon? He backtracked immediately. No, I'm just saying it's weird, that's all. I smiled into the phone, good luck finding it, and hung up. The following morning, Ethan noticed me at my laptop again, scrolling through spreadsheets of old transactions. You're cataloging all of it? Yes. Why? Because memory fades, I said, and I don't want to forget who taught me that silence has interest rates. He exhaled sharply. You're scaring me, Minnie. I looked up. You should be scared for them. That night, my phone pinged with a notification from Venmo. Brandon requested $75, no note, no explanation. I laughed out loud. The audacity almost deserved applause. Out of curiosity, I checked his feed. Payment after payment, all trivial. Clubs, drinks, bets, fast food. Then one line caught my eye. Payment to Donnie R. For the footage. Footage! My stomach dropped. I opened Donnie's profile, his bio, event security, installs, reviews, polls. They'd checked the cameras. For a moment, panic whispered. Had I been caught? Then I remembered. I'd worn gloves, moved fast, avoided direct sightlines. But I hadn't been alone that day. Mom had mentioned someone stopping by that morning. The cleaning service? No. Then it clicked. Brandon's ex, Alina Cross. Jenna had mentioned she still came around sometimes to help Mom with errands. If the footage caught Alina entering, not me, Brandon wouldn't suspect himself. He'd suspect her. A perfect accident. I texted him 2 words. Ask Alina. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. 2 days later, Jenna called, breathless from gossip. You're not going to believe this. Alina blew up on Facebook, said Brandon accused her of stealing the jewelry. She posted screenshots, tagged half the family. Everyone's sharing it. I sat back in my chair, smiling faintly. Really? Oh yeah, she's savage. Called your mom a control freak and Brandon a spoiled parasite. It's a mess. I said nothing, just listened to the chaos bloom in stereo. That evening, I poured myself another glass of wine. Ethan came in, holding his coat, watching me. You planned this far, he said quietly. Planned what? Them turning on each other. I met his eyes. They did that all by themselves. I just stopped cushioning the fall. He sighed. You can't keep living inside revenge. It's not revenge, I said. It's an audit. He looked at me for a long moment, as if deciding whether to believe the lie I'd built around the truth. Then he left, closing the door behind him. I watched the bracelet glimmer in the lamplight, and for the first time I didn't feel guilty, only ready. Because this wasn't the end. It was the middle of the unraveling, just enough to see the strings start to show. By Monday morning, my phone was a battlefield. Notifications stacked like dominoes. Family group chats, cousin threads, private DMs, all exploding over one thing, Alina's public post. In it, she'd called Brandon a manipulative brat who hides behind mommy's apron strings. She tagged my mother, accused her of covering theft with drama, and signed off with, "Enjoy living in your own house of mirrors." A masterpiece. I hadn't written a word of it, but it read like justice written in lowercase fury. Mom texted me that afternoon. Mom, we don't know why she's saying these things. You know, Alina, she's unstable. Please don't believe anything she posts. It's all lies. I stared at the screen, sipping coffee that had gone lukewarm again. Lies. That word didn't sting anymore. It sounded like background noise. Then came Brandon's call. Did you see what she posted? He demanded, voice tight. I did, I said. She's insane. She's saying I gambled your money, that Mom's jewelry went missing, that Dad... That Dad what? I asked quietly. He hesitated. Nothing. Forget it. Can't, I said. Forgetting is how we all got here. He hung up. 2 days later, Danielle, my older cousin, the one who'd cut contact years ago, called out of nowhere. Her voice was calm, like she'd been waiting for this storm. Hey, Minnie, I heard about the circus. You okay? I'm fine. For once, I'm not the target. She chuckled softly. You won't be for long. They always circle back. There was a pause. Then she said, You remember Grandpa's life insurance? I frowned. Barely. Dad handled it after he passed. Yeah, Danielle said. So did mine. Aunt Carol kept some records. I found old ledgers. There's money missing. Tens of thousands. Transferred to one of your dad's ventures. We think it was never repaid. We're reopening the estate audit. The words hit like a second earthquake under the first. You're serious? I'm deadly serious. Carol's lawyer already filed an inquiry, but if you've got proof of their pattern, any paper trail, anything, it'll help. I looked at my laptop, still open to my spreadsheet of years' worth of family loans. I have everything, I said. Then you're about to have leverage. That night, I sat across from Ethan at the dining table. Between us lay my laptop, glowing cold light on both our faces. I'm helping Danielle, I said. He blinked. With what? The estate audit. Turns out Dad siphoned money from Grandpa's insurance fund. I have records. I can help expose it. He pushed his chair back, tension sharp in the air. Minnie, this isn't healing. This is escalation. It's truth. It's obsession. Maybe truth always looks like obsession to people who've never needed it. He stared at me, and for the first time, I could see the line where love ends and fear begins. If you do this, he said softly, don't expect me to wait for the version of you that used to forgive. I didn't answer. He stood, slipped on his jacket, and left. The click of the door sounded like punctuation. That night, I sent Danielle copies of every receipt, transfer, and message I'd archived. She texted back. You're thorough. Dad would have called you the family bookkeeper if he'd seen this. Bookkeeper, I repeated under my breath. Funny, they called me that once too. Just never meant it as a compliment. The next few days unfolded like a silent avalanche. Alina disappeared from social media. Brandon went quiet online too. A blackout that only happens when someone's scrambling for damage control. Then Mom called, late evening. Hi, sweetheart, she began, her tone soft and strange, like she was talking to a neighbor she didn't want to offend. We know you've been upset lately. We just want peace. Peace? I said. Which part? The tuition lie or the cover-up? She went silent for too long. Then, you've always been dramatic. Maybe, but drama's just truth people don't like hearing out loud. She hung up without saying goodbye. 2 nights later, Brandon showed up at my door. Disheveled, eyes rimmed red. Can we talk? He asked. I stepped aside, arms folded. He paced my living room like a trapped animal. Everything's falling apart. Alina's threatening to call the cops. Mom's hysterical. Dad won't speak to anyone. They think I did it. They think I stole from them. Maybe you did, I said. I didn't, he shouted. I swear. Then quieter. But someone did. He looked at me like a drowning man looking for a float. Did you take it? I held his gaze. What jewelry? He froze. Brandon, I said evenly. For once in your life, stop pretending you're the victim. You're just the only one still surprised. There are consequences. His jaw worked like he wanted to fight, but the air had already left him. He left without another word. At midnight, Danielle texted again. Paralegal sent a request to the estate's lawyer. Audit access approved. They'll have to hand over every financial record from the attic. Attic. The same attic where Mom used to hide Christmas gifts, where Dad kept boxes labeled old papers. Do not touch. Now someone would be touching them, legally. I closed my eyes and exhaled. For the first time, I felt something close to relief. Not triumph, not revenge, just the deep quiet of a ledger balancing itself. The next morning, the sky outside my window was colorless. My phone buzzed with another text from Danielle. Lawyer says your dad's already trying to postpone the audit. That means he knows what's in those files. Of course he did. Of course he would. Because every lie has paperwork somewhere, waiting for light. That evening, I sat alone at the table, staring at the jewelry pouch. I could return it tomorrow, pretend ignorance, restore their illusion. Or I could keep it, not as theft, but as record. Proof that I wasn't crazy. I zipped the pouch, placed it in my desk drawer, and whispered, "This isn't revenge." It wasn't. It was inheritance. By the next week, the Ornelas name was no longer a badge. It was a cautionary tale whispered at family dinners. Danielle sent me an email from the estate lawyer confirming what we'd both suspected. Funds had been misused, transferred from Grandpa's life insurance to one of Dad's failed ventures years ago. The paper trail was clean, damning, and impossible to spin. The audit couldn't be postponed, not this time. Mom called that night. Her voice trembled between pleading and performance. Minnie, sweetheart, we don't have to keep dragging this out. We're family. I stared out the window, the city lights below me like scattered lies. Which part of family are you talking about? The part that lied about tuition? The part that watched me drown while calling it love? She inhaled sharply. We made mistakes. You built them, I said. Silence. Then her voice softened to that old manipulative whisper, the one she used when she wanted to sound kind. You've changed, Minnie. I had to, I replied. You'd never let me grow if I didn't. She started crying then. Not loud, not real, but practiced. I just want peace. Peace isn't the same as silence, Mom. I ended the call. The next day, Dad left a voicemail. Sweetheart, please, let's talk this out before lawyers make it worse. You know how things can look on paper. Numbers don't tell the whole story. Family's all we've got. I replayed it once, twice, listening to the irony of a man who had weaponized numbers begging not to be defined by them. Then I deleted it. By the end of the month, Brandon's Instagram was gone. His friends stopped tagging him at bars. He'd vanished from the world that had once adored his recklessness. Word traveled fast. Alina had filed a small claims complaint over emotional and financial damages. Mom and Dad were trying to settle quietly. The walls of their perfect home, the one paid for by everyone else's sacrifices, were finally echoing. Danielle sent me one last text that morning. Audit confirmed, the money's accounted for, and guess what? The jewelry appraisal helped prove the timeline. You closed the loop, cousin. I read it 3 times, then typed back. All I ever wanted was for the truth to have a receipt. That evening, Ethan came by. He stood in my doorway, unsure if he was welcome. You look different, he said finally. I am. He looked past me, toward the desk where the jewelry box sat under the lamplight. You kept it. It's insured now, I said. In my name, officially. Does that make you feel better? I thought about it. It makes me feel equal. He nodded slowly. I wasn't wrong to worry, you know. No, I said. You were right. I just had to walk through the fire before I could see it wasn't mine to carry. He smiled faintly, a sad kind of proud. You always did have a taste for the long way around. Maybe that's the only way to get somewhere worth being. He left soon after, and I didn't ask him to stay. Some closures need solitude. Weeks passed. The house went quiet. No calls, no apologies, just absence. The kind that doesn't echo because it's been there too long to make sound. I met Danielle downtown for coffee. She looked healthier, freer, the kind of calm that comes after generations of dysfunction finally fracture. You look lighter, she said, hugging me. I am, I admitted. You ever notice how silence feels different when it's chosen? She smiled knowingly. They'll reach out again. People like them always do when they need something. I know. What will you say? I stirred my coffee, watching the swirl settle. Nothing. Silence works better when you stop trying to fill it. That night, I stood by my apartment window, the jewelry glimmering faintly under the lamplight. It wasn't wealth I saw. It was proof. Proof that I could finally stop explaining my worth to people who measured it in transactions. I picked up one of the opal earrings, held it to the light, and whispered to no one. You can't steal from someone who finally owns herself. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere far away, but the sound felt clean, like the air after a storm. They wanted reconciliation. They wanted to rewrite the story before the ink dried. But after years of teaching me to live without their help, they couldn't be surprised when I finally did. And for the first time, I didn't need their voices to know I was free.